Support for this show, Politics Done Right, comes from politicsdoneright.com, publishers of How to Make America Utopia, Take Away the Economy from Those Who Rigged It, As I See It, Class Warfare, The Only Resort to Right-Wing Doom, It's Worth It, How to Talk to Your Right-Wing Relatives, Friends, and Neighbors, and other books written by Egberto, Willies. Welcome to Politics Done Right. My name is Egberto Willies, your host. Good morning, Houston. Good morning, Harris County. Good morning to the great state of Texas. Good morning to the entire United States. Good morning to the entire world getting our signals via the magic of the internet, created by whom? Created by us, created by we the people, now controlled by the plutocracy, the oligarchy, the billionaires, something that we got to do something about. But folks, we are continuing to fall into the grasps of autocracy. Before I jump to the studio, I just want you guys to, anybody listening, look up Amber Ruffin. She was going to be doing the correspondence dinner. And unanimously, they voted her out because of a joke she told. The White House didn't like it, complained, and the association, the press association, unanimously voted not to have her address the dinner. Man, we have law firms that are making deals with Donald Trump so that they can practice in federal buildings instead of going to court to force Trump not to take legal rights away from people. This is what fascism looks like. This is what autocracy looks like. If you think it's a joke, and this is educational, folks, this is what's happening. But let me throw it to the studio. We have wait. Before, as you know, folks, brother Van Beber has been away for a while, kind of ill, and we are just ecstatic and happy to have that raspy voice back, and hopefully with the lesson of the day as well. Anyway, thank you, Howard.
You just stole my thunder here, man.
No, you can. Right. No. He needs double thunder.
He does, because he has been sorely missed. I came in this morning and there was this car sitting in the parking lot. I thought, oh, great. So he's in there writing his wisdom. I said, Jack, come here. And I gave him the biggest man hug you could ever imagine. I am so glad to see this man back.
I'm glad to be back, man. It was crazy. I'm telling you, that experience was crazy. After you go to the doctor, they throw you to the wolves. You know, the pharmaceuticals wanted $1,500 for a prescription. Man, I thought I was being hornswoggled.
You know, it's crazy. Stuff. That was for the Paxlovics, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So I imagine you then decided to use the natural Pavlovics, right?
Well, yeah, that's the only thing I had left.
Well, I hear you, brother. I hear you. This is why we inform, brother. This is why we inform. And notice I can't say this is why we protest and all of that because of who we are. We are a 501c3. So this is why we inform people of what's being done to them. Go ahead, brother.
All right. Government should not be. Good morning, Egberto.
Good morning, sir.
All right. Government should not be privatized because government has to protect its citizens from corporate abuse. You will pay more and get less. Why pay a CEO and board members a salary and bonuses when we pay government employees to carry out the work of government? Don't let President Trump and Wonder Boy Musk take away democratic governance from, by, and for the people away and replace it with for-profit government. Let's not do that, people. It won't work.
Thank you so kindly for that. That is a very, very important message. Look, let me tell you, folks, things are getting more real than real right now. And that entry that Brother Van Beber just brought us to is something that we had better take seriously. The big all that we are seeing happening right now is a humongous distraction, right? Nobody is really taking good care of our security as a country, right? Nobody is making sure that we are aligned against terrorists, etc. You know why? Because as much as we talk terrorism has never, ever, ever been like a huge problem. It was a huge issue for people who wants to make money to protect us against terrorists. Look, it is true. A terrorist will want to bring a flight down every now and then. A terrorist would want to, because that's what terrorism does, right? They try to change political political values, political acts by having people fear. I consider the current, and I say this educationally. If you define what terrorism is, I define the current head of our government as implementing a terrorist act on us. In other words, putting the fear of something happening to you into people that allow the change of behavior, political behavior and otherwise. So here's where I want to start. A few months ago, or maybe a few weeks ago, I wrote a piece talking about this being all that Musk is doing is a big distraction, and what they wanted to do was to, privatize. But, there are certain elements within our government that can't be quite easily privatized in the aggregate, the whole thing. As an example, the post office is a part of our Constitution. So as being a part of the Constitution, we can't just say get rid of the post office and give it to the highest bidder. Maybe whoever gives Trump the biggest bribe, UPS, FedEx, DH, you can't quite do that. But there are technicalities that you can, right? In other words, if you have a building that's owned by the government, cleaned by government workers, and have government employees doing the job, you can say, okay, I want to save money. What we'll do is take away the cleaning chores from that building, send it to a private company to do, sell that building, bring a one-time income from that building into the coffers, and you get rid of half the employees, and anything that those employees needed to do that it's not there anymore, maybe answering phones and all of that, we sell it to an external AI system or to a external voice call system, whatever. I've been thinking about what they are doing when they're flooding the zones with what they're doing right now. That's been on my mind. And, I've written several Substacks about this in different iterations. And then yesterday, as I kind of started doing some reading on Washington Post, and I'm now careful with the Washington Post since Bezos controls it. And, you can't tell if these guys are going to be, how accurate these guys are going to be anyway. But this was a fairly good article by one of their writers, and the title of it, Elizabeth Dowskin, Jeff Stein, we all know, Hannah Naderson, and Jacob Bogage, wrote an article titled "Doge Wants Businesses to Run Government Services as Much as Possible." That one title tells the story. We cannot particularly kill agencies. We're losing in court. But you know what? When Congress wrote the rules for these agencies, they wrote the rules as far as what the agencies must do. But the executive gets a chance to say how it does it to fulfill the laws that Congress passes. And there is the rub. Donald Trump via Musk, as he got, well, let me read the first part of the article. It says, mail delivery, real estate, foreign aid grants. The Trump administration is moving to privatize a sweeping number of governmental functions and assets, a long-standing Republican goal that's being catalyzed by billionaire Elon Musk. The slash and burn approach of Musk's US Doge service is paving the way for a new shift to the private sector, reducing the size and power of the federal bureaucracy in a real world test of the conservative theory, a version of which is also widely popular in Silicon Valley, that companies are better than government at saving money and responding to people's needs. That could not be further from the truth. I'm going to give just one big example. One big example. Biden passed several $billion worth of dollars to build internet infrastructure in rural areas. None of that has really gotten done yet. Why? Because the private sector doesn't want the government to infringe on certain areas in rural America that sometime in the future they may decide to build an internet, so a broadband for their people. And thus, all that money that got passed in the Inflation Reduction Act that included broadband in rural areas never got done. And so people hear about all these great things that were done during the Biden administration. They say, but I don't see it. And they're right. Because the corporations, through lobbying, through neoliberal Democrats as well, have written the laws in such a manner that doesn't just go ahead and say, we're building this infrastructure, come high water or not. I don't care what the hell corporations want to say, well, we intended to build it. Okay? So the big fallacy that is told to America all of the times is that somehow corporations are more efficient than government. It's the biggest lie ever told, almost as large as that trickle-down economics work. There are reasons why it does not. There are reasons why these are lies, but there are reasons why they tell you that. There are reasons why the Powell memo it tells you we are going to infect churches, not schools, and everything else, because we have to control your mind so that you can vote against your own interest. Let's just put some numbers to it. And I want to show you how wrong that is, illogical it is. Let's just take one agency run entirely by the government. That one agency run entirely by the government. And by the way, before I go into that, I don't want people to believe that I don't believe that we should have corporations doing things. I believe corporations should do things that that people have choices for. You want a car and different kinds of cars, etc. Corporations should do that. You want to have restaurants and different kinds of foods. Corporations should do that. But anything that we, the people, are dependent on for survival, it should either be done by government or corporations under very strong regulations. That is a no-brainer. But let's go back to corporations now. If something is done by the government, the government gives a service or a product, right? And that's it. And for that service and product, they have an employee, they have a manager that gets a salary. All these people get a salary. You know what? You don't have to pay. You don't have to pay shareholders. You don't have to pay executives. You don't have to pay bonuses. You don't have to pay real estate charges. You don't have to pay advertising. None of that has to be paid. And one of the benefits you get from doing that are many, right? If you have a government worker by definition generally gets very good health care. They get very good. And by the way, I think healthcare should be controlled by the government altogether so that everybody, every living human being in our country should have healthcare that's paid out of the general coffers. All of us pay taxes, and that should take care of our healthcare. But that's a different story. If you take a look at the government worker, they make an average salary that is higher than the norm. They get good health care. They get fairly good vacation time, etc. All these are good things in the communities where you have government workers, because these government workers are paid at a higher rate than, let's say, your mom and pop store, because a guy working at USPS makes more than that lady at the counter at UPS, quite a bit more. Guess what? That person spends more into that local economy where they work. So they will buy more pizzas from that private sector. They will buy more scones from that coffee shop. They will buy more of all these things that UPS person at the stand can't afford. So when you hear them talk about privatizing a federal agency or privatizing your post office, understand that it's not only going to be rehiring employees at a lower salary, but having all these millions of employees at a lower salary also means that it affects your local economy. Those restaurants, those coffee shops, those movie theaters, all of these things now will have less money. And you know where that the money actually goes? It goes into the pockets of the executives and the shareholders. So it's a means, it's a invisible way of transferring our taxpayer dollars directly to the capitalist, directly to the people who own corporations, meaning shareholders, directly to the executives' bonuses for doing this great thing. So right now, folks, when you hear about Doge cutting all these workers, they're cutting workers that are needed. When they talk about cutting Social Security workers, don't think that as people start to scream from all these cuts, they're not going to rehire. They will. But what they will do is they will get private companies who will provide the bleed over. And these private companies will hire a lot more people at a lot lower costs, meaning they'll pay them a lot less. The same amount of money is what Congress is providing. Don't forget it. The bills are already passed. So we know how much money is already allotted to Social Security. So if you cut all these workers, you privatize and hire other workers that are paid less, guess where the rest of that money goes that has already been allocated? It goes to the shareholder. It goes to the executives. Folks, we have to wise up. This stuff is flooding the zone with so many things happening all at once that you don't see that you're getting screwed. You don't see that you're getting screwed. We, the taxpayer, getting screwed. Now, the slash and burn approach of Musk U.S. Dodge Service is paving the way for a new shift to the private sector, reducing the size and power of the federal bureaucracy, says these reporters in a real-world test of the conservative theory. Look, the conservative theory has been tried, and it has failed over and over again. And it has failed for the exact reason that we've just said. It is just a matter of transferring money to the wealthy. And after the wealthy have so much money, they don't have any reason to spend it. And they don't. But all the middle class employees that get these higher salaries, guess what they do? They spend it. They put it into the economy. They actually make use of it. They make the economy work. They make the economy work. So we can't allow the smoke and mirrors and all the distraction to work. What has to be done is folks have to learn these issues and act accordingly. And the complete movement to fascism hasn't yet occurred, but it is happening at a pace that, let me tell you, currently It is happening at such a pace that you had President Trump a couple of days ago saying the following: I am thinking about running for a third term, and there's a way. We know there's a way that I can do it, even though the Constitution says one term. He said there's a way. And then he ended by saying, and by the way, I'm serious. In other words, stop thinking that this is a joke of me just messing with you guys. I'm serious. I am coming for a third term. And there are two reasons that he's putting that message out. Two reasons. One is that he really wants a third term, assuming he can live through it. Because remember, the guy is pushing 80, right? So he does want a third term. But the other reason is he wants the rest of the world to believe that for the next decade, just about, they will have to be dealing with Trump. So while some countries may say we can wait this out, let's not make any deals with Trump. We can wait it out. You got 4 years and then it's over. He wants them to know, hey, look, I got in here again. And guess what? I could even go a third term. And just spinning that out there will have some countries, weaker countries, say, well, you know what? We better make whatever deal we can with Trump. To which I tell them what they should be doing is remembering that America makes up 4% of the population. 4% of the population. The rest of the world is 96%. America has elected a president not with the majority of Americans, with less than the majority of Americans. But because of various technicalities in our pseudo-democracy, he still became president. Maybe it's time for the rest of the world to assist in ensuring that this guy doesn't destroy the world. And maybe it is time for the rest of the world, instead of cowering, to go ahead and say, okay, maybe it's time for the rest of the world. You know, there was a time when one of the reasons Hugo Chavez was hated. Hugo Chavez was creating los Estados Unidos, los Estados Bolivianos de América. What that was is the Bolivarian states of America. And that would have included Brazil, Colombia, Venezuela, Peru, Argentina, all these major Latin American countries. And believe it or not, the amount of natural resources that these countries commanded and the intellect that these countries commanded, if they were to go it alone, would have matched either the European Union or the United States. The United States would not allow that to occur. And that's why you had that constant destabilization in Southern and Central and Southern America. Because again, we cannot have any competition. That's why you can have the largest bastion of oil, the largest reserve of oil in Venezuela, and nothing can come of it. That should be the superpower in an oil economy, the superpower of South America. Ask yourself why it's not happening, anyhow. So it is important, folks, that we understand these concepts, that we understand what's really occurring out there, and that we start doing something about it, if that's what we want to do. But one thing that we cannot do is just sit back and say, somebody is going to do it. Somebody's going to do it. As we all know by now, I started that a bit too early. Somebody's going to do it. We can't do that. Look, before I go to the next subject, the telephone number is 713-526-5738. Call early if you want to make a comment so that we don't have to rush you. 713-526-5738, extension number 2. Of course, you can still hit extension number 1 if you want to make sure that we can stay on air forever. And so that Trump doesn't, well, we don't get funds from the government for a long time anyway. So 713-526-5738. Let me say this. A lot of times, many of us sit back. And when we sit back, we have the belief that change comes from somebody else doing something. And that's true. But sometimes that somebody else has to be you. It really has to be you. You can't sit down and twiddle your fingers with the expectation that somebody is going to do something. Because if you are fearful, maybe those other somebodies are fearful too. But you know what comes in collectivism? You know what comes with working together? Whenever you start getting together people, there's this strength that comes upon all the members of that group that says, you know what? Together we can actually make the change. All right, folks, the telephone number before I get to the other subject, 713-526-5738. Don't wait till the end. 713-526-5738 is the telephone number. All right, the next subject at hand, since I don't have any calls yet, let me get to my thing here, is the Canadian Prime Minister. Unlike many other countries, the Canadian Prime Minister decides that he's going to take no punches. He's going to stand up to the bully in chief. He's going to stand up to the fascist. He's going to stand up to the autocrat. What is America going to do? Invade Canada? I kind of doubt it. But here we go. Let me play this that I did, I think, on Friday, and then we'll take it on the other side. As we all know by now, Donald Trump has applied tariffs again onto just about everything coming in from Canada. And you know what? I think the Canadians have just had it now. Prime Minister Mark Carney came out and said, you know, guys, the relationship that we have with the United States, for all practical purposes, it's over. Well, let you hear it in his words, and then we'll take it on the other side.
We will fight the U.S. tariffs with retaliatory trade actions of our own that will have maximum impact in the United States and minimum impacts here in Canada. The old relationship we had with the United States, based on deepening integration of our economies and tight security and military cooperation, is over. What exactly the United States does next is unclear. But what is clear is that we, as Canadians, have agency. We can give ourselves much more than any foreign government, including the United States, can ever take away.
I am not sure what Donald Trump really thinks. He believes that the old world, where countries like the United States and Russia and China could just go walk over every other country around the world and be imperialist, capitalist, colonialist, can continue to occur. The thing about it is people are aware, people are smart, and you cannot believe that if you go ahead and conquer somebody militarily, that somehow then you own the land. If you take a look at everywhere we have attempted to conquer in the last several years, from Iraq to Afghanistan, you know, what has the results been? Even Venezuela, we attempted several coups in Venezuela. We are the instigators of those coups, right? So the only leverage we have is the leverage of economic attacks, right? Like we've attacked Cuba for the last over 50 years. We've attacked Venezuela for the last several decades. We've attacked all these countries that, you know, we don't want to exist. And it's funny that the biggest communist country on the planet, China, is the one that we're doing a whole lot of business with, buy a whole lot of our debt, and we depend a whole lot on them, right? Vietnam, another country that we fought in, but now we are actually working with them fiscally. Now, let me tell you something, guys. Understand what's really going on here. It's all about, and I hate to put this on the door the way I'm going to, but it's all about capitalism. It's all about end state capitalism. They're running out of entities, and what they want to do now is to control these other resource-rich areas. And if they can't get it, they want nobody else to be able to mine it. Notice, if you listen to what J.D. Vance had to say when he was in Greenland, oh, these other countries are making overtures to the people in Greenland. In other words, making deals with them in Greenland. And he can't allow that. The Trump administration can't allow that. In other words, we are going to determine the kind of deals, and whether the deal is good for you or not, it just realize it's not going to be with any other country. Think about what we're doing in Ukraine right now. We want to sign deals where we own their minerals. This is sick. And when 4% when a country that only has 4% of the population tries to do this kind of stuff, it comes back to haunt you. Now, my concern is this. My concern is when the blowback comes, and it comes fiercely, Donald Trump may use that as an excuse to declare martial law. We will then see how the Congress reacts to that, whether they overturn his attempt to become, yes, that dictator that he dreams about all of the times.
We spend a
Absolutely so. Okay, it's time to go to the phones. Let's go to Raymond. Raymond, line number 1. Come on in.
Good morning, Egberto. How are you today?
I'm doing fine, my brother. Talk to me.
All right, thank you. I'd like to address the topic from the previous segment that you just finished up about 5 minutes ago.
Yeah.
Economics, and I know that there's no such thing as a perfect government system, but you made a point that with the government being cut back, you're going to have workers taking private jobs that are making less money and therefore having less money to spend in their local economy. I'd like to share another perspective on that, get your feedback on it.
Sure.
Right now, what we've seen with Doge is massive government waste and fraud that's wasting money that us, the taxpayers, have been putting in for years and years and years and continue to put in. And by cutting that out, privatizing those jobs, saving money by reducing the cost to get the same services done, the government should have an excess of income, a surplus. And what they should do, I'm not saying they will do this, but what they should, the level of taxation on the rest of the people. So that guy that got his private job over at UPS has less of a tax burden and the same amount of money to go spend on his local economy. And I think that's the goal of the current administration. And it makes sense because who has control of that money? It's the people that are collecting it and distributing it. And that right now is the government. And they're doing it very inefficiently. They're spending a lot more than they need to. And you've seen a lot of reports with Doge committing a lot of fraud with that money as well. I think they're not being very good fiduciaries of our taxpayers' money. I can tell you my example, I lose about 30% of my income before I ever get my paycheck. And by the time I spend all my money, I've spent about 50% of it on taxes. And that's not okay. That's not sustainable long term. I'd like to see that turn around. What's your thought on that?
Okay, and look, first of all, I appreciate you. You know, one thing I like when somebody differs from what I'm saying is for them to have a logical explanation of what they're saying. And what you gave was a very logical explanation of it, right? Now, unfortunately, if we do it numerically, as far as how much money saved, it doesn't wash for the middle class or the poor. Let me explain. If you take a look at, let's say, I get rid of that $60,000 job, but that and put a whole lot of $30,000 jobs in business, right? What happens is that person that is making that has lost $30,000 isn't going to make that back in taxes, because more than likely the person making $60,000 never paid more than $2,000 in income taxes. So right there, numerically speaking, and I'm not talking about whether it is right, wasteful or not, because my contention is that an economy is a man-made entity, and somebody's waste is somebody else's income. I know it's hard to accept that, but But we've always accepted that with the banking sector. They screw around and lose a lot of money, and we throw money at them no matter what. Okay, so I understand you're coming from a philosophy of being a good steward of your own family's income, and that's great. Unfortunately, in my humble opinion, my brother, is that's not how government works. Now, when it comes to your statement about Elon Musk finding a lot of things, a lot of fraud, it's not true. It is, and it's provably not true that Elon Musk is finding a lot of waste. And the reason he's not finding a lot of waste is the parts of government that are very wasteful are not the part that he's likely to contend with. As an example, he called USAID wasteful. Not true. It not only harmed farmers from not being able to send their food and goods overseas, but it starved a lot of people that were dependent on what USAID did. When we look at Social Security through the Biden administration had built up where getting customer service, etc., was done in a very humane fashion. You didn't have to stand in the line for 10 hours, 15 hours anymore. You could go to the Social Security office, and all of these things are not anecdotal. These are numbers that you can find. You could go to the Social Security office and get taken care of. You didn't have to wait on the phone for 4 hours. There are a lot of things that these cuts are made. They're not made for efficiency's sake. They're made for pain's sake. People who spend a lot of time on the phone waiting for service, a certain percentage of them will just get fed up and hang up. Right? And that is the expectation. You also mentioned about these people being able to circulate more in money. Look, most of the savings for government, most of the savings in government will not go to the middle class. The vast majority will go to the wealthy. And you may say, well, they're the ones who pay most of the taxes. True. But they're the ones who take more from the economy. They're the ones who make monies on our backs. What do you do for a living, my brother, Raymond?
I'm in sales.
What do you sell? You don't have to. I mean, if you can tell me, what can? Huh?
I sell flooring material.
And you're probably a damn good salesperson. So you go out there and you sell your flooring material, and the major company that puts out that flooring material makes a hell of a lot of money on the great work that you do. And they get a much bigger tax break than you do comparatively. Where I'm trying to refocus people's minds is into a position that says the economy is rigged. Remember, economies are man-made and it's rigged. And I hope that in this exchange that we have, go ahead and fact check what I just told you. And then give me a call back sometime and we can continue this discussion. All right?
Okay. Thank you, Berto.
Thank you very much, brother. All right. Let's go to Augie. Wait. Number 2. Yeah, Augie. Come on in, Augie.
Good morning. Yeah, originally I was going to call about Trump wanted to run for a third term if he lives that long. Well, if he does run for a third term, does that mean Obama can run for a third term too against him? Yeah.
Oh, I never thought about that one. Oh, wow. I never thought about that. You see why I have great callers, man? That's true. If it's okay for him to run, then Obama can say, okay, I'll run against Trump. Good get. Yeah. Good one, Augie. Augie, I didn't think about it. That's a good one. Yeah. What else you got to tell me, Augie, before I jump the gun?
And the guy that just called, he's wanting Trump to run our government more efficiently when Trump has been bankrupted before many times. He failed to pay his workers, his contractors. There aren't any banks in America that will loan to him. And he wants this guy to run our economy and his cohort.
Okay, let me tell you something, okay? And this is where I think we have to understand what's going on in our country since and a lot of it, as we became more progressive as a country, businesses started to panic. And that's where the Powell memo came from. And it spent a lot of money understanding the psychology of men. And notice I said the psychology of men. And in doing so, it did that to ensure that we could keep this master-slave relationship. It's now a master and antiseptic slavery kind of relationship. Because when people figure out that they are the ones that do the work, as some plutocrat, some capitalist gets the rewards, they start to ask, why am I supporting this? And that's the biggest fear of the business class. The biggest fear. Hey, but Augie, my lines are filled up. You have anything real quick to say?
Yeah, people can be really gullible, but those are just words. The actions speak louder than words.
Amen.
Than anything Trump or his followers may say. So a lot of people are blind to the actions. And the Bible in the New Testament says actions speak louder than words. You've already seen the history of Trump's actions in the past.
And that's what we have to make. People see the actions and they're still willing to go with them. There's something else there. We'll talk about that another time. Yeah. There's another magical thing there that has.
If he wants, this other guy that just called, if he wants to lower taxes, well, if he wants to lower taxes, then make the billionaires pay their taxes.
There you go.
That will lower our taxes.
Thank you, Augie. All right, I think let me go to. It's 4:09, Johnny. Or is that a deadline or what? I don't see a name attached to it. It's a deadline. Okay, let's go ahead and go to John Garcia. Come on in. I know what this is going to be about. Come on in, brother John.
Hello, Egberto. Well, something the previous caller said is that I think that what the government wants to do is, and that's the problem with this government and others, that they are not explaining what they are trying to do. I'm pretty sure they still don't know exactly what they are planning to do, so they don't explain. Citizens are just wondering and trying to put good ideas in these random actions. So I really call when I hear you say Venezuela 3 times.
I know that. But I tell you what, can I answer your first question first, and then I let you? I swear, I promise, I'll let you talk about Venezuela. But I think you're mistaken in believing that the government doesn't know what it wants. I think Trump's government knows what it wants perfectly, and it was clearly defined in Project 2025, which I haven't read entirely. But everything that's being come out right now, you can see what steps are being taken. And secondly, this is a privatization effort that is pretty clear. But, that I'm going to let you talk now, brother. Go ahead.
Okay, and I just want to say that it's sad because now I'm an American, but the United States is having a dose of what we had with Chavez. You've seen how your country is driven crazy to a destruction, and you try to do something. And you said to the people that it's not everybody else or somebody else is gonna do something. It's you. Yeah, that's what we try to do. When you say the Venezuelan oil industry should be the best in the world, it should. But Chavez fired 23,000 people one night because they made a strike. Because the oil company in Venezuela was a state-owned, but was an independent agency. Like here we have independent agencies.
I know.
The government fires and try to direct the independent agencies. That's what Chavez did with the Venezuelan oil company. He started firing people and putting his friends as directing this independence agency. We thought the president didn't have agency over those independent force groups. And that's how the workers of the oil company make a strike. And Chavez fired 23,000 of the best engineers and technicals we had. And that's why our oil company started going to hell. And you always try to find all the reasons of the destruction of South America in the United States. We didn't see the United States. The destruction was created by Chavez and by Fidel, and they created a system,
my dear brother,
all the liberties of the people, and you are defending a system that retire all the liberties of the people. I don't understand.
John. I think I've spoken about this before. Hugo Chavez was a direct result of what Oh, I didn't mean to. Was a direct result of. I suggest you read the book, Capitalism. Yeah. Anyway, I can't remember the name of the book. Somebody's going to remind me about it. But it was. You'd say the South America has not heard about what the Chicago Boys did. Look up, and I ask anybody that's listening to me right now, do a search on Chicago Boys and South America, Chicago Boys and Asian America, because you can see what the Chicago Boys did to destroy economies throughout the world that were becoming collective economies to support the people. Chicago Boys, led by partially by the god of capitalism known as my mind is going right now, but I'll come back to it later. Let's go to Lisa, but do that search, Chicago Boys and South America. Come on in, Lisa. Lisa, come on in. We lost Lisa. All right, come on in, Nancy.
I want to talk about government services and a little warning. About 2 weeks ago, I tried to call IRS and waiting time on the phone. And then they're telling you in the recorded, if you use by phone, you're going to have to pay. And I forgot how much the fee was just to use the phone to talk to IRS. So I got off and I said, and because the recording says, if you go online, you don't have to pay that fee. So I went online. I have to make a account. Okay. Then I read all the things online. It did not answer my particular problem. So I tried online, and then it was telling me, oh, this is wrong, that you've done it. Make your password, something's wrong. And I tried again. So I don't know. Maybe it's just with the phone and not with the computer. I was trying to access the account that I just made for myself. So I could not get through. So I went back to calling them and waiting over an hour, and then it hangs up. So I tried and go start all over by phone again. I did this around 4 times and I gave up. And I said, I'm going to write a letter. So I sent a letter to IRS. Okay, Nancy. Then I had some problem with Social Security. Same thing. Waiting and no answer. So I'm going to write a letter. And I wanted to tell you one more thing. The post office. I live in the Southwest, near Chinatown. We have 150 languages in our area. And then before Trump was inaugurated, we had a counter that could have four different workers assisting us. And the lines were long, lots of people, lots of black and brown, lots of brown. And then I went a week ago to the post office. Instead of 3 people at least, staff, there was only one. Yeah. And the Asian person was gone. So no language. I don't know what language he was doing, Mandarin or whatever. And so only one. And when he would say next, he would say, we don't do passport services here anymore. You'll have to go to some other place. I don't know where. And Nancy,
I got to go, but let me just tell you this. Thank you for that testimony, because America has to understand now that that's our future if things remain the way they are right now. So thank you for the call, Nancy. I got to go to Bruce.
One more thing. Real quick. The lights were dim. They lowered the lights. They're in the post office. So dim. It was That's all. Thank you.
Thank you. Let's go to Bruce. Come on in, Bruce. Bruce, I don't have a lot of time. 30 seconds. Thank you, brother.
Okay, before I start, my dad fought in World War II in the South Pacific against fascism. I don't want us to have to do that again. Pseudoscience raises its ugly head periodically throughout history, each time hurting society. Peter Hotez has a new book out about that. I didn't get to read it because I fell asleep last night. But anyway, when I meet an anti-vaxxer, I ask them, "And you have a dog?" And they go, "Oh, yeah. I say, "Did you get your rabies vaccine?" "Of course." I said, "Please don't tell me you care more about your dog than your child. Please,
Beautiful.
Please." Hey, I'm done because we're time short. Bye.
Thank you, brother. Let's go to Patrick. Come on in, Patrick.
Looks like we're we're running out of time, and it was hard to get on, so I couldn't hear everything you had to say, but I want to make sure that you pointed out that there have been no arrests for fraud yet, and so they're lying about fraud. Another thing that people need to look at is that the services they're trying to take away are the services that are going to make us weaker. The services that they're keeping are the ones that are going to keep us in line when we fight back. There are a lot of things that we can't privatize. Something that has failed over and over is water. Any time we try and privatize water anywhere in the world, it levels economies, and the companies give up on it because they can't profit from it. I'll leave it there since you're running out of time, but I had a whole lot to say.
Well, thank you. Don't forget, 3:00 we can talk about this as well. All right, let's go to. Thank you very much, Patrick. Let's go to Brian. Come on in, Brian.
Good morning. Welcome back.
Good
Jack.
morning, sir.
Missed you. Your weather reports. I can't figure out, and I can't remember any beer truck being burned down.
Okay. Brian?
If you don't like the product, just don't use it. Yeah. If you don't like the product, don't use it. Such as Tesla. If you don't like it, just don't buy it. Don't burn it down. That's somebody's private property.
Do you feel the same way about January 6th, right? And by the way, I agree with you there, but do you feel the same way about January 6th?
No, I don't believe I don't believe that. I believe that was a setup.
Oh, okay. I see.
In January, yeah, I believe it was a setup. I saw many more hours of police officers actually letting people in. You didn't see that, did you?
Of course I saw that. Of course I saw that perfectly. But what I also saw is look, we watched on TV, big angle, far angle, straight angle, every angle we have a picture of what happened there. That you choose to remember that you saw certain doors that police had the doors open, and you choose to maximize on that. I can't help you there, Brian. I'm not even going to try to change your mind on that. I know where you stand on that, but I think, it speaks more about you to believe that. Anything else?
No, why are you taking up for Hugo Chavez?
Let me tell you, Hugo Chavez was a direct look. If I don't have the time to go into Hugo Chavez right now, and Garcia, who's I consider a friend, just doesn't get it, even though he's Venezuelan. But let me tell you, I am from Central America. I understand exactly why America went after Hugo Chavez, and I understand exactly why Hugo Chavez eventually felt like it was him against America and a lot of things that he did, because that is a reaction that happens when they circle the wagons against you. Hugo Chavez, under his administration. No, Maduro's a joke. I don't like Maduro. Maduro's a waste of time to talk about Maduro. Hugo Chavez was the person who really had the Venezuelan peoples at hand. When you heard Garcia talk about, he fired all these people, that's true. When he talked about the I forgot the name of the Venezuelan oil company being a private an agency, but a part of the government, he's right. But also, these were the elite in the country that had a disdain for the population at large. Venezuela is a rich country where just a few of the people partook of the wealth of the country. Period. That's an absolute fact. And when he came in, because again, past Carlos Andrés Pérez and all these guys that were just stooges of America, when he came in, he said, no, we are sitting on top of the largest plot of oil, and we are going to put it to use to the country. And he cut poverty in more than half. He did a lot of good things for that country. But then the attacks came and the coups came and all these things came. And a lot of times that changes a person as well. But he was a direct creation of what capitalism does negatively. That's who Hugo Chavez was. And anybody wants to debate me on that, including my friend Garcia, I will do it till the end of the earth. Because again, there are some privileged folks in Venezuela, and then there are the others. All right, let's pass it on to the studio.
Oh, nothing here. Jack, you got something? Jack says no. Take it home, Egberto.
All right. Anyway, so I'm surprised that I finished with a couple minutes. Anyway, folks, the other subject that I really wanted to talk about was what's occurring in the White House now. We talk about DOA. I mean, what is it? Diversity, equity, and inclusion. And I always thought that what occurred with diversity, equity, and inclusion was that it was defined incorrectly. People like to use that as a pejorative. In other words, they want to use that to say that it gives benefits to people of color, women, etc. No. What DEI does, diversity, equity, and inclusion, ensures that you get a complete pool of qualified people, so that you don't get the unqualified running your government. So what we got to replace our great Secretary of Defense was a lightweight named Hegseth. What we got for a president was a lightweight called Trump, who went bankrupt, who maimed women, who did all these things. DEI? No, we need DEI so that the pool. Let's go to Johnny real quick. Johnny, you got 30 seconds.
Yeah, real quickly. My line was not dead. I'm very much alive, and I have 4 simple words that even Brian and Breitbart cannot disagree with. Magic Jack, welcome back. Oh, by the way, there's hope for Raymond. Even though he's currently deluded and drinking the Kool-Aid, the fact that he's come to KPFT, that's a good sign. And he sounds young, and he sounds very much swayable. So
but Raymond actually gave a plausible. Thank you. Raymond gave a plausible argument, and that's what I like, because you have to go from step 1 to step 2 to step 3. When you show me that you don't just parrot what they're telling you, that you make some logic out of it, we can have a bilateral conversation, and that's who Raymond was. And I hope he calls again. Anyway, folks, we got. Go ahead. Real quick.
You mean Raymond is? He's very much alive.
Raymond is. Yeah, exactly.
Raymond is alive.
Yes.
Which means he has to.
Okay, I gotta go. Okay, look, love you all. The rest of the show is at politicsandright.com/newsletter, politicsandright.com/newsletter. If you want to write me directly, kpft@politicsandright.com, kpft@politicsandright.com. My name is Egberto Willies. Love you all. This is Politics and Right, and you know how I end this, baby. I am what? Support for this show, Politics and Right, comes from politicsandright.com, publishers of How to Make America Utopia, Take Away the Economy from Those Who Rigged It. As I See It, Class Warfare, The Only Resort to Right-Wing Doom. It's Worth It, How to Talk to Your Right-Wing Relatives, Friends, and Neighbors, and other books written by Egberto Willies.
Welcome to Politics Done Right. I am your host, Egberto